The highest level thinkers are more introverts than they are extroverts. They stay more internal than external. They talk very little versus talk a lot because they're thinking. They're spending more time analyzing. Incredibly successful people do one thing more than everybody else. They do one thing that's a unique factor to them. It's not exercise. It's not reading books. It's not going and surrounding themselves with different people. It's not meditating. It's none of these things. It's one thing. They think. That's right. They think. And what does that mean to think? They think about their life. They think about things from their vantage point. They look at it from their perspective and they analyze it. I'm Dr. Alok Trivedi, and I want to share with you kind of the strategies of becoming a high performance thinker. Over the last 25, 27 years, I've had the opportunity to work with, study, and meet some of the greatest minds on the planet and to understand what makes them successful, what makes them tick. And as a doctor, I wanted to understand what are the unique factors? What's the science behind the way that they think? Why do they think the way that they do? And in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the tools, the strategies that they use that help them grow their life, their opportunities, and really their influence that makes them live a life of inspiration, right? The biggest thing that they do is they think about their vantage point and they say very strategic to what they want to do, right? They won't get caught up. Here's the interesting thing. The highest level thinkers are more introverts than they are extroverts. They stay more internal than external. They talk very little versus talk a lot because they're thinking. They're spending more time analyzing. You know, we've all heard that the paralysis of analysis and that's all bad and it's good. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, is that when you look at a high performance thinker, what they're doing more often than not is they're hedging the downside. Because the optimist will go ahead and put everything from the positive spin. They'll look at the world from positivity, and what they'll say is that the world is positive, everything's good, everything's going to happen. We're clients and business and money and patience, and where's all this going to come from? It'll magically come from the universe. And look, as ethereal as we want to get, the reality is that you still need to do your part inside this. And the most successful people, they spend time hedging their bets against the negativities. They're looking at the world and they're saying, what can go wrong? What can go wrong? What will go wrong? They look at the risk aversion. Risk-averse thinking is one of the highest skills of successful people because they look and they maintain their own levels of protection. Because the brain of ours is not built on this idea of abundance as much as everyone wants it to be. It's actually built on the ideas of survival. Your mechanism, your homeostatic, your body, every mechanism inside of you is designed around survival. But the idea that you're going to be magically successful is really unrealistic. So in this video I've shot, I want you to go through the science and understand, okay, why is it that risk mitigation is so important? Why is it that successful people, they think negatively? Why do they use negativity as an advantage? And why do they use aligned reasoning to help them become a high performance thinker? You're going to get all that and more inside of this video. So enjoy it. I can't wait to see your comments. Make sure you do. Can't wait to hear what you have to say. Thanks a lot. I'm Dr. Alok. Bye-bye. Now I'm going to start getting a little bit intense. I hope that's okay because I get really fired up with some of this stuff. We spend our entire life, then we get into our 50s, our 60s, and our 70s, and we take a look back at our life and we say, what did I accomplish with my life? What did I do that was of success to me? What did I accomplish in my life? And some people may say a lot, and that's great. And some people will look at it and say, you know what? I didn't. I didn't live on the premise that I wanted. I lived on everyone else's premise. And I didn't get to experience what I wanted out of my life. I got to experience for other people. And that is what doing says. And here's the other problem. John actually was the one who told me this. Right? John taught me this several years ago. He said, Alok, you know how many people come to Hollywood? I said, no, I have no idea. Because every year, Alok, every year, 50,000 people come into Hollywood. 50,000 people. I said, okay, John, what's the big deal? I'm thinking, what's the big deal? 50,000 people enter Hollywood. He said, no, the bigger problem is this. He said 50,000 people leave Hollywood every single year. I said, that's interesting.
He said, yeah, if you stop and think about it, it's very interesting. So it's always a net zero. And I said, what makes the factor? He goes, look, these people are great actors. These people are really good at acting. I said, that makes sense, right? Like, because there are some people who you've never heard of. Right? He talked about George Clooney a second ago, but George got lucky. He had the connections. He was talented. He had the looks, all of that good stuff. But there are other actors who you probably have never heard of who are completely better talented. So what made the difference? And I asked John, I said, what made the difference in it? And he said, look, it's just the way that they think. Some of it comes down to luck. He goes, but mostly it was the way that they think, the way that they prepared, the way that they thought about themselves, about their life. And I thought, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Based on what I know and what I teach, if they valued themselves, then they would change it. Then they would learn to love it. And only when they did that, with the opportunities opening the doors. See, because most programs that are out there will teach you how to think, right? You've all been to programs before. You've been to programs where they tell you, okay, this is what successful people think like. And there's books and books and books on this. And you go and you study them and they say, this is what successful people think like. And this is how they're supposed to think. And so here's the problem with this, Sarah, is that you sit around and you then change the way that you think, comparing it to other people. So you change who you are relative to them. Right? You should say, well, successful people, you know what they do? They get up in the morning and they work out every morning. So I'm going to start working out in the morning. That's what I'm going to do. And then they sit and say, you know what? They get up in the morning. They also meditate in the morning. I'm going to get up and meditate in the morning too. You know what? They also read every morning too. I'm going to make sure I read every morning too. You know what? They also prepare their meals for the entire day. And they go do that too. And you sit and say, well, I'm going to go out and do that. Before you realize all the things you're supposed to do, you realize that you're going to get up at 3 a.m. What the hell's the purpose of going to sleep? At this point, why even go to bed? And then you say, you know what? Screw this. Forget it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go back to the way that I was, which was comfort. I'm going to go back to who I was, where I was, and how I decided to exist. Because that was better for me. And that was better for my existence. And I was comfortable with it. So you'll sit and motivate yourself because you've tried. You'll sit and say, I'll go get motivated. And I did too. I'm not putting it all on you. I did the same thing for so many years. And say, I'm going to get motivated. And you go to a seminar, you get motivated, and you say, I'm going to get amped up. And you come back and 3 or 4 days later, just like I did, I remember it every single time. All this hell would happen in your office, in your world. And then 3 or 4 days later, all that motivation faded away. And I sat there and I looked at myself and I said, this got to be a better way because this isn't making sense. And I realized at that time that it wasn't the seminar's problem. It wasn't my problem. It was the content. And it was the material wasn't evolved enough. It was telling us how to think, just like our parents taught us how to eat or how to think. But the problem was, it was not about thinking how I thought. Think about this just for a minute. Is a high-performance thinker doesn't follow everyone else's thought. What they do is they learn to think the way that they do, why they think the way that they do. They learn to understand, why is it that I think this way? Why is it that I function this way? Why is it that I think in this fashion? And based on that, they're able to calibrate their lives. I'll give you a perfect example of this, right? Elon Musk. I would have to say that guy, or Naveen Jain, these guys taking us to Mars, are complete visionaries of the world. Would you agree with that statement, right? Complete visionaries of the world. Completely. And I loved it through COVID when everyone's trying to shut Elon Musk down. He says, you know what? I'm just going to go do what I do. You guys can punish me with whatever you want to. Not that it was right or wrong, but what I loved is that he thought on his own. He didn't give up to the governance and authorities of his world. He had the power and the fortitude to think on his own. And that art is lost. And that art is where we're lost. Because most people today are studying mindset. And look, I'm going to say something that may offend you. And if it does, pardon me if I do, but I'm going to be a little bit real this weekend. If it's okay, I'm going to show up and real and authentic with you guys to bear my soul and my life so that you guys can stand on it and learn from this. And I hope that's okay with you guys. But most people are teaching mindset, right? They're teaching mindset around this, which is completely different than thinking, right? If you look it up, mindset in itself is it's a collection of your beliefs, of your behaviors, and your habits. And we're going to talk a lot about your beliefs, your behaviors, and the habits. But what creates that? It's the thinking. See, right? Then if you look at thinking, what it is, thinking is the control and the coordination of the things within your mindset. So I'll say this, and I'll probably offend you right now as I say it, but if you're working on mindset, you're really just working on the symptom. You got to get to the cause of what the problem is. That's why we're here. And when I figured this out, it was like, oh my God, we have a new epiphany. We have a new evolution of thinking. Because all the people that we've come from in personal development, as genius as they are, we can now look at them and we can stand on the shoulders of these greats. And I'm not here to take anyone down or destroy anyone or say anything bad about anyone. I'm here to stand on the shoulders of the people that have lived before me to be able to help us as a population grow and think differently. And all of you here this weekend want to think differently.